So, first we talk about introduction. Like, the first thing I noticed when I woke up was that it was cold. The second thing I noticed was I was stuck, as in instead of the nice warm bed I usually slept in, with the blanket and my wife next to me, I was trapped in some sort of box that has iced over glass for the door. The third thing I noticed, I was naked as the day I was born, which explained part of why I was so cold. Had someone tried to kill me? I had tried to scream for help, but I don't know how to react on this. If you find it cringy, then you can skip this video. Like, so what felt like mucus began to crawl up my throat. I think it is something forcing me to cough vigorously and hard, spitting out a sickly yellow-green substance that tasted acidic on the way up. Leaning forward and resting my head against the cool, comforting grass, and I coughed up what must have been half of my stomach and lung capacity in the gross and awful tasting crud. I noticed that the door, or whatever the glass was, had begun to slide open. What? What started as a slow creak up pushed all the way up as whatever leftover battery or hydraulics kicked in and spilled me out onto the door. Oh, I groaned into the hard concrete. I had tried to catch myself, but my arms did not seem to be working. Everything felt weak, like I did spend a few weeks in bed being sick. My bone ached and my throat. जाइएगा मत. Like I did spend few weeks in bed being sick. My bone ached and my throat was scratched and raw from vomit. Can anyone help? I rasped, my voice sounding like I did chain smoked a cartoon of cigarettes. But no one responded. The only sounds I should I could I could hear were what I thought was the wind beating on the outside of whatever building I was in. I lay there trying to force my muscles into obedience for what felt like an eternity. You know what eternity means? You don't know. I don't know. Eternity matlab the time runner. The time traveled by while the wind continued its song. My only measure of time was the sound of my heartbeat. Finally, through my arms began to respond, pushing them underneath me. I tried to do a push up and get back onto my feet the same way I did been doing since high school, only for the now weak and nobody arms to fail me. Muscles that had atrophied collapsed and left on my knees, but I could finally see, and craning my head around, I observed my surroundings. Yes, he observed his surroundings, like rotating the head, watching the surroundings, and behind me, where I did first fall in, was what looked like a bunch of knockoff cryo tubes from Halo, only square, all of them except for the one I did not I did just fallen out of were cracked, opened or damaged in the some way. The concrete room around me was covered in debris, skeletons, and destruction. There were scorch marks on the walls, old, spent cell casings on the floor, and burnt out equipment everywhere. I had no idea how I did even gotten here. The last thing I remembered, I working on a chapter for for one of my BattleTech figs while my wife I watched a show in the background. Eventually she did rolled over and gone to sleep while I did stayed up another few minutes to work on something. Then I did set my head on the pillow and peed out like a light. Shaking my head slowly, I ripped myself out of what had happened yesterday. Looking down, I noticed that my hands and arms looked small and frail compared to they what they been the night before. Not as if I did gotten older or younger, but as if I did been a coma patient for a long time. Still, even if my muscles were weak, I could not just sit around her on my knees. I needed to do something first. I needed to be able to move and to take stock and see what I was missing because of the ruble. I couldn't see over. Spotting the leg of a metal table nearby, I slowly crawled on my hands and knees over to it. One edge and jagged and rough, but the other was perfectly fine. So I put the jagged end against the floor and tried to push up. M. Fuck. I grunted as a jolt of pain from little used muscles shot through my arms and legs. But I was standing, and even if it hurt, being able to stand was movement in the right direction. Now learning to my big shit came, I carefully moved through debris on the floor. Now that I was standing, I remembered I wasn't wearing any clothes, and that included shoes. Maybe there were some clothes next to icebox. Now that I was paying attention, I did look like there were some sleeps or lockers beside the rows of the dead and damn. Like bro, what what's happening on this? I'm very confused. Hobbling to locker, I looked at one I looked at one beside the box I did crawled out of and noted that it did indeed have my name on it. H mark A was set into nameplate and it looked like there weren't any locks on it, so I grabbed the handle and twisted, smiling as it began to open. Then the red emergency light turned off, leaving me in the dark. My heart jumped. A part of me wanted to hide something, wanted to hide because of whatever might be coming after me in the darkness. The other part of me was telling me that I was still naked and that if I was going to die, I might as well do it warm and without being shriveled up. So I reached into the now open locker and felt a burst of happiness and satisfaction at what felt like clothes. Putting each item out, I began slowly identify what they were in the pitch black. That was a shirt. This one was a pair of shorts. Finally, I found what felt pair of boxers leaning against. I began to pull them on backwards. I put them on backwards. That was uncomfortable, so I quickly stripped them back off before pulling them on the right way. Certain important parts of me, at least somewhat protected, I gradually found items and got myself dressed, pants, slippers, like etc. Everything. The clothes were all baggy, and my now frail and skinny frame bearing the elastic of the underwear, but they were still clothes. Still, there might be other things in the locker, so I began combining through it in the dark. There were a few items that I could not identify, but there was one that felt intimately familiar. Grabbing onto the pistol, I slowly pulled it out and began running my fingers over it. I did not feel like any of the models I was familiar with. The grip was textured in an odd way, but it was comfortable in the hands and it was something. Hopefully, whoever used that. Let end this from here. So, learning, speaking.